So first off, NASA Spitzer Space Telescope. We have achieved looking back into the past, about 13 million years in the past. NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope is able to view some of the very first galaxies in the early universe. New research required Spitzer to stare at the same region of sky for over 200 hours. The Hubble telescope also contributed to this data, and this could help us further learn about the epoch reionization. I think I'm saying that right. So, in short, the epoch reionization is the period of
Epoch.
time, epoch reionization is the period of time when our universe became ionized by the first luminous sources. We're still not quite sure exactly what those sources were, and the telescope detected faint infrared signals produced by high levels of ionizing radiation. Further study of this can lead to a better understanding of the process of structure in our universe. Pretty interesting. And it's like kind of, I guess, weird to think about because if you're seeing the other galaxies, even though like we can see it, it's not really like necessarily what's there because of the time that the light travels.
Mm.
But you know. Um, and then moving on to more biohazard news. Last week, we covered the growing emergence of the measles in the US and its rapid spread. So, if you guys missed that podcast, check it out. It's on our YouTube. So, the bubonic plague now, the World Health Organization has categorized the plague as a re-emerging disease. Even worse, if the bacterium that causes the plague were turned into an aerosol form, it would be one of the most likely biothreats, which we are not whatsoever prepared for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this case, a Magnolian couple recently ate the kidney of a marmot, which is a very large squirrel, and they contracted the plague and died. Health authorities responded
The
by declaring
bubonic
a
plague.
quarantine, the bubonic plague.
Because there are multiple different types of plagues. The pneumonic plague is still semi-frequently contracted around the world, but the bubonic plague, however, is much more rare.
Yeah, so the bubonic plague, and then there's also the pneumonic plague, which is a form of the pneumonic plague, which happens when it gets into your lungs and basically you get a really crazy form of pneumonia, and that's always fatal. But otherwise, the bubonic plague, the fatality rate is about 30 to 60%. Yeah, so they ate the marmot, they contracted it, and they died. The health authorities responded by declaring a quarantine. And basically, if you don't know, since it's just not a normal thing in today's time, you can contract the plague by being bitten by a flea that is carrying it, or just by handling an affected animal. The plague occurs naturally in the western United States, particularly in Arizona, California, Colorado, and New Mexico, which I was like kind of surprised by reading that because I don't know if you hear about too many cases or they just keep it on the hush, but yeah, I don't know. The bubonic plague, oh, I told you that has a case of 30% to 60% fatality. Over 80% of US cases have been in the bubonic form, which is the most common form of the infection, untreated
Maybe I
bubonic
had it
plague.
backwards then. I thought the
Yeah,
I thought the pneumonic plague was more common than the bubonic.
no, bubonic. So it's kind of like in stages. Bubonic is first and it's more common, but if you don't treat it, it turns into the pneumonic, and that's
Mm.
always fatal. Um, and the key step for prevention of plague include eliminating nesting places for rodents around your homes, shed, garages, recreation area, etc. Don't touch dead animals. I feel like we shouldn't have to tell you to do that, but like, don't touch dead animals. um, and use insect repellent that contains DEET to prevent flea bites, and treat your dogs, treat your cats for fleas regularly. Um, and they should prevent your pets from hunting rodents because it's primarily for rodents. So yeah, it's kind of nuts.
I remember taking some antibiotic once, and it could be I read somewhere that it could be used to treat bubonic plague, and it makes it sound like, oh, this must be some heavy duty stuff, but I think it was, if it was, I think that was a case of me taking uh like a taking probably an antibiotic that I probably shouldn't have had, but I got a prescription for it, so I took it, but it could have been a case of like overprescribed antibiotics that's leading to resistant bacteria, which is something I haven't heard of antibiotic resistant bubonic plague.
There
I
is,
have
though. There
There
is a
is.
strain. It's not here. I want to say it's in Madagascar, but there is a
That's
strain that
interesting.
is it's resistant to antibiotics. It's not common, and it's not here in the US, but it exists.
That's both interesting and scary.
Very
I know
scary.
of MRSA,
Hmm.
staph infections that are antibiotic resistant. I've heard of chlamydia that's antibiotic resistant, and if there's a strain of bubonic plague, that's one of the worst diseases that's ever stalked our planet. I
Yeah.
think yeah,
Another one would be Ebola, which cases are on the rise again for that in Western Africa, Congo, I believe.
Mm. Yeah.
There's
well,
been 1,000 cases already reported this year so far, so we might be looking at another Ebola outbreak like a few years ago.